I'm not even gonna lie, I just really needed to use the bathroom. But it was a good enough excuse to cut because what I'll probably do is I'll title the first one like Pokemon Reborn analysis, part 1 issues with the post game or whatever, right? This one will be part 2 issues with the story. So this story, you already know what I'm gonna say. The whole Lynn sort of story shift, right? And it is weird because there was a bit of like self-awareness regarding that in the entire credits, right? And it's like, but the problem with that is just because you're self-aware of something doesn't mean it's not like, it's not in fact it, right? Like you can be self-aware of something being bad. That doesn't make it not bad, right? So the issue with the Lynn story shift, and I call it shift, right, is, and this is kind of in tandem with the post game. I didn't really have any issues with Lynn in the main game, in kind of the shift to Lynn in the main game, right? And the reason for this is, and this was something I said, I drew a parallel between Lynn's character and ours, where we're kind of the protagonist that just comes along out of nowhere, like, you know, all of a sudden just throws everything for a loop, right? And then beats the evil team, right? Like, you know, it's the typical, like, oh, you know, Pokemon antagonists when they come across, when they're fighting adults versus just a random 13-year-old child, right? Lynn, I drew the parallel to Lynn because she was kind of our antithesis. She is like our, and it's funny because we're technically the same character, at least according to the game's lore. It's the antithesis, the same thing, but for the antagonist, right? She kind of comes in through the help of Sirius, and Dr. Connell usurps Team Meteor, you know, and then ends up overthrowing Solaris and basically ends up, again, being the de facto, I guess what the wiki called de facto leader of Team Meteor, right? So I didn't have an issue with that in the main game. My issue is the post game where it kind of turns into, okay, yeah, I mean, cool, we get backstory on her, but then it's like, okay, she just has god powers, and because of that, she just fucks around and, you know, eventually, I mean, like, she's in the nightclub, eventually we beat her, and then it's like, okay, yeah, that's that, right? Like, I hate to say it, like, in the problem with this is, if Lynn's story was like, I did not have an issue with the whole Dr. Connell side, like, story going on. In fact, I think, you know, that whole, like, I don't want to say sequence, but sort of storyline of, okay, you rescue the orphans from Dr. Connell's, or you rescue all of them from Dr. Connell's orphanage. Again, you end up clashing with Dr. Connell. They have their own sort of issues that they go through because of their experience there. Again, eventually Dr. Connell dies, right? And we get that post. I think that was all said and well. All done, said and well, right? Said well and done. Whatever the phrase is. You know what I'm saying. The problem is that becoming like the main driver of the entire story is where the issue lies. Because then it's like, okay, we have this entire buildup with Team Meteor. Fuck, we get flashbacks regarding, you know, again, Team Meteor's sort of transition from the protectors of the, what would you call it? You know, initially, the protectors of sort of the temple or whatever, right? With the New World Orderlies transitioning into the group that we knew in the present day via Solaris, via, not Elias, but what was Elias's freaking dad, right? I don't even remember the guy's name. Because Elias was he was the son, like Taka was Solaris' son. I don't remember who the dad was of the New World, the sort of leader of the New World cult, right? So we get this entire build-up with that, right? And a ton of other things. Like we get the whole Powerful Academy storyline. We get Kane's, again, with all these kind of other side stories, but really the big thing is building up, you know, Team Meteor and the New World cult, right? Because that's the primary antagonistic group. We get this massive buildup of that. Again, it culminates with the Siege of Labrador. All of it just to basically not matter and get completely thrown away for this whole like Lynn storyline. Again, it's just like, come on. Like I feel like this is I feel like there's no way most people don't agree. Like, it's like, come on. I mean, fuck. We don't even see Solaris in the post game, presumably because he's dead, right? But still, like, come on. Like, we get this massive buildup throughout the entirety of the main game just for it all to get thrown away. And then it'd be like, oh yeah, none of that actually mattered. It was all just because Lynn has god powers, right? You know, she's in the new world, right? Again, like, not every game has to do some sort of like meta aspect. There doesn't need to be a multiversal like timeline aspect to every single fucking game. There doesn't need to be a meta dimension to everything, right? You know, and again, in Insurgents, another kind of, I don't want to say masterclass because that sounds kind of crazy glazing, but yeah, Insurgents never touched in the meta aspect at all, right? Its story focused on, again, you know, the obviously the main game, you know, you fight all the cults, but the post game, again, it told its own story, but then just tied and closed the loop with everything else in the main game. It didn't go off the rails and do some, oh yeah, everything was fake. Everything, you know, there's this kid who's God, right? And has God powers, you know, and it's actually all of their manipulation. It's just like, again, it's, I can't be the only one to think this. And it's just like, it's kind of, it'd be different if that was always kind of front and center. If it was always like, okay, there's this, you know, this sort of godlike entity, you know, that you need to figure out that manipulates the region or whatnot. You need to figure out who they are and stop them. If that were always front and center of the game, it wouldn't be an issue. The problem is, again, that for the bulk of the main game, Team Meteor, right, is what's front and center, right, as the main driver of the story. You got all these little side stories, which are good, and I will talk about them in the pros section. But again, the primary driving factor of the story for the main game was Team Meteor, right? The New World Cult, Solaris, you know, the other guy, Elias, Taka, all of those, right? You know, you get all of that. And then even Lynn, like I said, I don't mind Lynn's role in the main game where she's kind of the antithesis of us, where she just comes in, usurps Solaris, right? And like, I don't mind that. It's the whole post game like story where it's like, oh yeah, it's actually all just fake, right? Again, and it's like, come on, like, again, because this is, I think, the issue is that everyone thinks everything has to have a meta dimension, right? Like, I mean, fuck, that's why Yick sucks ass so goddamn much, is that it just can't focus on its goddamn story. Like, you know, I don't want to compare this game to Yick, though. This game is by far and large better than that, right? Better than that fucking pile of shit, right? I was gonna say, again, but not, again, I don't know who needs to hear this, just not everything needs to have a meta dimension. And I think that's the flaw with this game. This game wanted to try to do a meta dimension with like Lynn, you know, and all of the again, the orphans from Dr. Collins, right? And it's like, all right, I mean, way to just destroy the story you've kind of spent the entire main game building up. But I think I talked about that enough. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to also end this, because I'm going to release this analysis in parts. So this is part 2 again, talking about the story, just because it's like, and the game kind of semi-acknowledged it in the credits, but it's also the issue of acknowledging something doesn't mean it's not there, right? Like, again, it's just, and I know I'm being hard, but it's also like, I mean, there's a lot more positives I have to talk about the game. And I'm saving those for the positives, but I need to talk about the 2 glaring cons, right? The 2, I say, glaring, unavoidable, like, issues with the game. Again, and it's pretty much all restricted to the post game. Like, the main game, fucking fantastic. Mainline game, fantastic. It's just the post game, that's where really it's like, okay. Again, those are just unavoidable, glaring issues like that I can't make an analysis video without covering, just because it's like, it's just so glaring and so like, I mean, you hear me complain about it like every single post-game video I put out, right? Like, I just needed to do that. But with that, right, I think I'm going to end this. This will be like analysis part 2, post-game, or like story issues, right? Now, again, right, this third video, I'm going to just go over all the positives, right? Sorry, that was like loud shit, I don't know. All the positives, just because there's a lot of positives with the game, right? And I want to reserve them all for that video. So that's it for this one. See you in that next one.